Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the one, to the only ERA Sunday Championship Round 2 at the beautiful circuit located in South Africa. And I've no favoritism here. Welcome to Kyalami out in Midrand. This circuit is steeped in history over the years as it has gone through a few different changes. This 4.5 kilometer circuit with 16 corners opened in 1961, hosted Formula One. It's also hosted the likes of our supercars, which was Superstars originally back in the day, was the home of A1GP, and so many more. Now, with that being said, it is home to round 2 of the ERA Sunday Championship, as the drivers are going to have to battle their way around the circuit. The Yuxke sweep into barbecue is challenging, and last year went and showed what can happen when things go wrong in the championships. Cheetah, long for its history of going and snagging drivers right at the last, will always be a critical point and will be a proper race and a half for our drivers. But that being said, let's go down to take a look at now qualifying, and let's take a look at our points as well, as we got Nicholas Porras out on circuit. He's going and putting in his first of his lap time. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do out there. Now, Nicholas Porras is striving to do far better than what he had in the last round, where it was a little bit tricky for our gold drivers. So, for anyone that's just joining us for the first time, a massive welcome to everyone out in the virtual grandstands. Lots and lots of South African flags out there. Good to see the Griffin Sim Racing team, based in South Africa, coming and supporting. I can see located at Clubhouse and at the Yuxke sweep. So good to see you guys out there enjoying. Got Antonio Gamble, Ruin Heineke, Crazy Stunts, and so many more. But with that being said, let's talk about the championship, shall we? As we got our gold drivers making their way around. Nicola Lawrence currently leads out the championship after a stellar display of charging his way to the line. Now, that being said, he was under some serious pressure from Hanso Voss in the Mercedes, who wasn't giving him any room to breathe. The two of them battled their way down to the wire to ensure who gets first place. Lewis Knight came up third with not enough drive out of the final corner to get into the fight, but was right on the tail, seeing what he can do. The defending champion will be going and seeing what can he do now here in South Africa, here at Kyalami, to ensure he stays for the top running. Finley Gamble holds on to 4th place and will be looking to move his way through the order. Not an easy time, especially in the class. And Finley Gamble, who was first in Indianapolis, unfortunately a few circumstances shoved him down the order into 4th. He's looking to right those wrongs and put himself back in towards the top. Another driver who's had a ton of fun on his return, Christian Fengler, going and showing a dominating run in terms of defense to hold 5th in the last run. He was fighting against El Perry out in the Nissan GTR and was a difficult fight indeed. Nicholas Porras is in 8th with Sean Young in 9th, and Rich Van Heed was able to go and get that car across the line, and it's wonderful to see him back out on the circuit once again, the South African, looking to fight his way to the top. Now, with that being said, we do have some new drivers to the grid, and it's wonderful to see some new names arriving. We'll quickly go through as soon as the rest of our drivers come through and starting to get some times on the board. So we have got Diego Matos returning to the grid out in first place with Nicola Lawrence, 0.5 of a second behind. A 142.1 has so far been done. We've seen cars get down to the 140s. Some have tried in years gone by to the 39s, but that is just incredible pace nonetheless. Christian Fengler trying to move forward, but a new name to the grid and one to keep an eye out for. And this is Ukalon, who is out on the track. New name to the grid. Wonderful to have. and already starting to show some great pace. Fastest in Sector 2 with a 142.4, and as debut outing is going to be starting to be a serious contender. A driver that is returning to the grid, Bron Cox from the Stunt Possum Racing, back out on track after a long hiatus. Last time out was sitting in endurance racing, and it's good to have Bron Cox rejoining us on the grid after a good long time waiting, eyeing out, and now back to see the drivers doing everything they can. Now, there is a little bit of a trick here, folks, because here in ERA Sunday Championship, for those that don't know, we always try and test our drivers. So every single race, there is a little spin on the circuit right until the last round where it's completely random. This round, however, is all about dealing with the South African heat. We're going back to the summer where we are sitting on an extremely hot circuit, and the drivers are going to be really dialing up the wick to see what they can do. We're looking close towards 40 degrees out there, and drivers will be starting to feel it and see what on earth they need to do to stay at the top of the chart. So Bron Cox is able to get up into 7th. Lewis Knight has yet to get a time on the board down the old pit straight, and so is David Christie coming through Ingwe down the main straight, puts the hammer down, and we'll be seeing if he can put a good time on the board this time, and does. He's able to get himself a 144.2. Back of the grid, however, as it is Diego Matos who holds the top of the charts. The Stunt Possum Racing machine going and switching out from the Mustang that he did rather well, and now into the McLaren is taking the fight to the sharp end of the field. Tristan Ocleon has a great run at the moment. Come on, Stephen. English. Yeah, man. Sorry, I had to add a little bit of Afrikaans, and that's about all the Afrikaans I know out there. Finley Gamble holds on to 3rd place and starting to figure out what he needs to do. Patrick Wells a little bit further down, hoping to stay at the sharp end of the field, as we got Christian Fengler coming across the line. He's able to get into 2nd place. No one's able to beat Matos's time as yet. Lawrence chasing down his teammate, locks in that 3rd place as he chases down the Martini colours of Nicholas Porras ahead of him, and not having an easy time out there. But with 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go and a whole lot of points on the line here at Kyalami for round 2 of the championship, Tristan trying to give it a little bit more of a charge. Comes across the line. He's up into 2nd place. Diego Matos going and slipping down to 2nd. We see Rich Van Heed stopped and pointing in the wrong direction. And Bron Cox currently top of the charts on his return back to the ERA grid, showing a huge amount of pace here tonight. A 141.5, but now he's got to make it work. Ulrich Diaga down in 7th position as Finley Gamble trying to give it a little bit more around the circuit through Sunset, past the Bombers, in towards Clubhouse. On the anchor, swings the car through, short little straight before you get to the S's, and drivers trying everything they can. The only driver with a time missing on the board at the moment is our Season 17 defending champion, Lewis Knight, who will be scratching and clawing every opportunity. Cedric Muir having a great time out there in the Verstappen.com car. Hopefully not going and experiencing the same damage as Verstappen.com's car earlier in the NLS qualifying run. So he's going to be hoping to avoid any damage and bring that car ahead of the rest of the pack. Diego Matos still in 3rd, but another driver had a brilliant one. That's Sean Young, doing a phenomenal job. Tristan pushing harder and harder down on his time, unfortunately, right at the last. Cox trying to go and give it a little bit too much through Cheetah in towards 3rd. Flying across Ingwe as he sees Rich Van Heed, and unfortunately got a little bit out of shape on the exit. Not quite what he wanted. Here comes Cedric Muir chasing down the McLaren ahead. David Christie going and keeping a close eye. Both up on their times. Cedric currently in 9th position, 0.4 up, gets a little bit squirmy on the exit, costing him a bit of time there. He was 0.5. He does come across the line. He's up into 5th, and a great run on his part, but a lot of hard work. Patrick going and giving it everything he can in the BMW, trying to see where they can try and move up through the order. A big field in the gold division. And it's wonderful to see such an extensive field, a wide variety of cars out there. Lewis Knight's able to get a time on the board. However, it is at the bottom with a 1:43.2 and no time left to go and give it that extra little bit of pace, as we are now moving on to our next set of drivers, and that is going to be our Platinum division. After Indianapolis, there was a few drivers chomping at the bit here tonight, looking to move forward, and will be going and keeping a very close eye on one another. For the South Africans, it's about pride. For those out on the circuit that absolutely love this track, are going to be hoping to beat that 1:41.4 set by Diego Matos. And then you've got the likes of Cox, Fengler, Porras, and Young holding on to the top 5 currently. Patrick able to move up. Now, let's talk about our Platinum division, folks, as it has been an exciting one, as we got to see some close action in the field for our Platinums. David Roth currently holds the top of the charts in the Platinum, taking the win at Indianapolis. More than happy on his result. However, he's got Chris Wall, the logistical nightmare racing machine, will be going and breathing down the back of his neck, hoping to close down the distance and see whether Chris can take the fight to the sharp end of the field. Herman Whitner for the Extreme Sim Racing team, out in 3rd place in the championship, was taking a solid brawl with a couple of drivers out there and got to have a great fight against the one, the only, Daniel Mutsimai, who is out in his McLaren. It looks like livery not quite syncing up again. And gonna personally reach out to him and say, hey, listen, please give me your livery, because it's not pulling through. But Daniel is a stalwart in defense and will keep himself going, making sure that every single driver that has a go at him will need to work their backsides off as he holds on to 4th place. David Young holds on to 5th. Andre Sorodio going and holding on to 6th position. You'll be looking to have a stellar run. And Sorodio going to be keeping a very close eye on the field, practicing for the LMU series that Project Vapor is holding up for themselves and wanting to carry that flag forward. He'll be going and keeping a very close eye on Rick Thomas, who I'm trying to take a look, might not be, there he is, Rick Thomas for the Extreme Sim Racing team, down in through the S's, currently holds to 7th position ahead of teammate Chris Biermester. Holding on to 8th, 9th position is David Borski, who goes and holds on. So David, a little bit further down for the Cyber Racing Machines, will be keeping an eye on the field and seeing where exactly he can move forward. Another driver that didn't quite make it in Indianapolis, but returns to the grid. It is Henry Platt of the Moscow Motorsports, going and keeping the power down and hoping to stay in for the fight. Good to see him back out on the track. Another driver out joining us is Issam Domingo. Will be looking to move his way forward as we start to get times on the board. So far, the South African, Herman Whitner, holds on to 4th with Andre Sorodio and Issam Domingo holding on to 3rd place in class. David Borski down in 7th position at the moment. So far, 1:41.7 set as the fastest lap time for our drivers at this stage of the game. But it is going to get quicker. Rick Thomas and David Young are going and showing their talent out there, getting a time on the board. Chris Biermester getting a time on the board with a 1:43. David Roth, however, here he comes to put a time as he rockets his way up to 6th. Daniel Mutsuma will be the next one to come through and hoping to stay at the top. For the South Africans, this is a lot of hard work going to be utilized at the moment. And see how they go. Well, for Ruan Heineke, who's got a big smile on his face. I've run out of Afrikaans, but I will try my best. And maybe add in a little bit of Zulu. Isi tututu. That is for motorbike, believe it or not. For those that don't know. And it's one of the very few the Zulu words I actually do have underneath my belt. But we'll be working on that in due course. Now, the only driver that hasn't got a time on the board is Henry Platt in the Platinum Division, down in 28th position, needing to keep a very close eye on the field and looking to see where exactly he can make up that little bit of time, sitting actually right in the commentary box and wanting to keep a very close eye on the field. And hopefully we'll get to have a chat with him a little bit later on his efforts and also get an idea of what happens during the course of this race. So, that being said, Serodio, top of the board with a 141.3. Herman Wepner going to be trying to close up the distance. Unfortunately, last lap not working out on his qualifying run. And we'll be trying to see what happens. David Broschke trying to improve as well. And his last lap was a 141.7. Not enough to jump him up through the order. David Roth also had a good time, a 141.7 as he comes across the start finish line and is able to rocket up into second place. Currently leads the championship and can't leave anything on the table here in the Platinum Division, otherwise running into a world of trouble. Chris Beermister trying to make his way through Clubhouse and standing on the gas. One of the best places, personally, I think, to view the race is heading into the first S, as you get to see the car sweeping around the track. Everyone hoping to stay at the top of their game, but it is extremely hot out there, and drivers are starting to feel it as well, as they're trying everything they can to move forward, to stay at the top. And for every single one of these drivers, it's critical to score points early, to stay at the top of the charts, to really take the fight. As we've seen every season thus far for 2026, and we've only had 2 seasons, it has been an interesting time because it's a single point that has separated the championships, and every single one of the drivers know they have to get that big push. Herman able to move up into 5th place, right behind David Roschke. The Cyber Racing Machine having a stellar run, and we'll be keeping a close eye on the field with 2 minutes and 48 seconds to go for our Platinum class to finish up their qualifying. Each class having 10 minutes to stay at the sharp end of the field. It comes down to who's willing to put it all on the line. Who is going to give it that last little bit of stick before we release the fastest in the world, our Diamond Division, to stay on the top. So Serodio practicing lots in LMU, going and switching up his focus back into the world of ACC, holding 6th in the championship. We'll be keeping a very close eye on what needs to be done. David Roth holding on to 2nd at this stage of the game, needing to try and dart it up a little bit more, heading onto the old pit straight out of Barbecue, down the old pit straight as it was incredible pace into Sunset, flicks the car around, long right-hander. You got to just let the car go, a quick pull to the right, in towards the left, and down on the throttle as you head towards the S's. It is a slight brake, a blip of the gears, and now you just got to utilize the throttle, gently getting that car sorted out as you make your way towards Leerkop, formerly known as Westbank, and you start making your way through the double left-hander apex before you go absolutely as fast as you can down the mine shaft, heading towards Crocodile, formerly known as the Bowl at later stage of the game. For fun fact, for anyone that doesn't know Kyalami, this circuit nearly died in 2010 after it was put on auction, liquidation auction, believe it or not, and it was Toby Fenter that bought the circuit, Mr. Porsche South Africa, and has teamed up with a couple of fellow business members in Saudi to help keep this amazing circuit alive. It's now called the Kyalami Grand Prix Convention Center and Track. So how's that for a bit of a change up in names. We just know it as Kyalami Grand Prix. David Young in 7th position, trying everything he can. So far, not many drivers able to improve out their spots. Rick Thomas, the last of our Platinums, down in 22nd at the moment at 142.2, which is a very competitive time. However, just needing to go and dial up that little bit more, really start giving it that little bit more pace, seeing what's going to work out for him. Serodio, Roth, and Whitner currently trying to improve their last little bit. As we're releasing our diamonds, here comes Whitner, trying to get as close as he can through Cheetah, heading down to Ingwe. Late on the brakes, slams it down the gears, and is able to get back onto the throttle as quick as possible, down the straightaway. And from 3rd, can he improve? He will maintain that 3rd place. Does get a quicker lap, but unfortunately not enough to make it work out for him. David Young, 0.2 up on his time, much like Isam Domingo was. But David Young trying everything he can to push it that little bit harder out of the final corner. Young looking for the Delta One Racing to come across the line and does improve up into 3rd, pushing Whitner down to 4th. What a last minute dash down to the line. And David Young's going to be more than happy on that stellar effort. So it's David Roth, Serodio, Young, and Whitner holding on to the top 4. David Broschke holds on to 6th position and 5th in class. Now let's talk about the fastest class in the world. It is our Diamond Division. And these are drivers that are really looking to fight it out. At the top of the pack is a driver that was a defending champion, but had his streak broken last season. Christoph Peterson looking to come back with a vengeance, holds on to 1st place, and will be slugging it out. Sean Skitter, our fellow South African, going and keeping his battle on, holds on to 2nd place, but will be fighting out against a driver that he knows very, very well. Former teammate Ernest Limburg's out in the McLaren, a different choice of car, then holds at number 1 on the car. He is the defending champion in the Diamond Division after a mad race at Bathurst on the final round, and able to eke out 1 point ahead of Christoph Peterson. So good to see him out there. He's out in 3rd, hoping to steal the show. Mahath Musa completing the trio from the Project Vapor team. Serodio, Isam Domingo, and Mahath Musa now join up on the circuit. He's down in 35th at the moment, but is 4th in the championship. A driver that has taken the fight to the sharp end of the field here in ERA more than once in the past. Will be keeping a close eye on what he needs to do. Stephen Milano James out there in the Ferrari SF26 holds on for a great run at this stage of the game. He's in 5th in the championship, ahead of Bego Frobler, who I don't see here tonight. So Bego Frobler, Jan Bego Frobler from South Africa, not in the server this evening, and unfortunately not going to be having an easy time. That allows Ruben Heineke, the Griffin Sim Racing team, to go and stand at the top. He will be keeping a very close eye on the field and watching a couple of drivers making their way through, as he does not want to impede them, especially through sunset, and will rather slow that pace down and bring himself back up to full flight. Milestone, unfortunately not in... Sorry, Milestone is actually on the grid here tonight after having an unfortunate contact at the start of Indianapolis. Got dropped all the way down to 8th position, and now just trying to pick up the pieces of the championship on his returns. Good to have him out there. And 9th in the championship, not in the server tonight, is Jason Farmer, which is a bit of a blow to see that Jason Farmer is out for tonight, but we're still keeping a very, very close eye on the field and the Griffin Sim Racing team. So, Milestone, top of the charts. Steve Milano James down in 7th position as it stands. Sean Skitter down in 10th and hoping to really dial up the wick. And we've got a couple of drivers out in the grandstands Daniel de Villiers, also known as the Hitman, races in the ERA Masters, going, let's go Saffers, the PWSR driver, not taking any sides there, and is definitely wearing many, many hats. We've got to agree, Daniel. We have to support everyone. Yes, we want to keep a very close eye on the rest of the pack. Now, a couple of drivers that we haven't spoken about, well, one driver in particular, Rafa Sosa. For anyone that doesn't know this name, get to know it. A former top runner here in ERA, returned last season in the Nissan GTR and was fighting for first in the championship, where it was a battle down to the wire between Christoph, Rafa, and Ernest to go and find out for that top spot. Rafa, now in a McLaren, missed out on Indianapolis, but it's wonderful to have him back behind the wheel, and is a driver that Christoph is deeply concerned about, much like he's concerned about Milestone. Ernest Lindbergh's Sean Skitter has got some pace underneath him as well, and that really does tell you how things are going to go. Mahyth Musa looking to try and move his way up through the order and seeing where exactly he can stand at the top, with Sean Skitter just ahead of him as he makes his way through Ingwe down the main straight, absolutely foot planted to the floor, bearing it down and across the line. Skitter with a 141.6 will be hoping to close up the pace. So far, no one's able to beat Christoph Peterson, who's been the fastest in Sector 1, Sector 2, and Sector 3, with no one able to touch him as yet. But that being said, he can quite easily get caught off guard, and we'll have to keep a very close eye on the field. No one gonna be losing too much time here, as everyone's looking to stay at their best pace. So far is Christoph Peterson up on his time, 0.0 at this stage of the game. Now 0.1, found a little bit of pace in Ingwe and across the line. It's good to see a stellar run. A bit of love coming in for Sean as well. That's wonderful to see our amazing grandstands giving us some great support for all our drivers, and a welcome to those. Sean Young getting a bit of love from the grandstands out here at Kyalami. Rafa trying to pick up the pace, currently up on his time. Mahyth Musa currently 0.3 up on his time as he exits Leocorp, heading down the mine shaft at this stage of the game. Absolutely keeping it planted through the little King Cat mine shaft, brakes at the 50 in towards the bowl and swings the car around as he lines it up through to Cheetah as the whole circuit tightens up through this quick right-hander. You've got to be careful not to mount the curb and send the car flying, as 2 minutes is left on the board. Drivers going and eking out every little pace at the moment, trying to see what they can do to stay at the top. Either way, not going to be an easy time out there, and every single driver doing everything they can to stay at the top. Mahyth Musa down in 6th with Rafa in 7th. Peterson holds top of the chart. Sean Skitter, Milestone, Stephen Milano, James. David Roth holds on to that 5th place spot as a as a platinum driver. Mahyth Musa, Rafa Sosa currently sit with 6th and 7th at the moment as he comes across the line looking to push it a little bit more. Ren Heineke digging deep at this stage of the game. The only driver yet to get a solid time on the board at the moment, it is our defending champion, Ernest Lindbergh's. Hasn't had the easiest of runs. Last lap time wasn't quite his best at 142.9, as he now goes on a proper flyer, 2 seconds off the mark of the rest of the pros, and is absolutely doing everything he can to claw back, as he does not want to be starting down in 35th position, lining up next to Lewis Knight. El Perry will be also keeping a very close eye on the situation, going, right, what do we need to do to keep a close eye on each other, and how can we stay in for the fight? As late on the brakes, throws the car in through Sunset, and unfortunately losing a little bit of time through sunset into clubhouse, puts the hammer down, looking far better on the exit, heading into the S's. Into the first S, swings it in for the second S, trying to go and get that little bit more pace. Whether it's going to work out, this is where it's going to be interesting. On the anchors, throws the car in through Learcorp. First time out in the McLaren here at Kyalami, and so far is one of two drivers left on circuit. Rafa Souza in second place, 0.1 up on his time as he exits Ingwe, nailing it towards the start finish line and across the line with 140.8 and is off the mark with that 140.6 set by Christoph Peterson. A great run on his part. Limburg's coming out of the final corner now. Point is 1.3 seconds up on his time. Not going to be top of the charts, but it's definitely going to throw him all the way to the top. And it's down to 17th position, ironically enough. Not quite where he wanted to be. So as our drivers get ready to rock and roll here at the beautiful circuit of Kyalami, everyone looking for a stellar run. However, it is gonna be a race and a half for our drivers to see who can stay at the sharp end of the field and who will be able to get themselves to the top. Our drivers will then start to grid and get themselves ready. So folks, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere as we get ready for our drivers to line up on the line. And we are back, folks, right on the grid here at Kyalami. 2 minutes and 40 seconds to go. And you might be starting to realize, hang on, there's something that's a little bit odd here as drivers are ready to head out onto the circuit. For those that are just joining us for the very first time, a massive welcome to you all to the ERA Sunday Championship Round 2 of Season 18, and our drivers will be looking to have a stellar run. The question is, as we take a look at all our different camera views from Christoph Peterson's view and keeping a close eye on the drivers, this is going to be an incredible race. So you'll notice each car sits with a penalty. Now this is a success penalty. If you have managed to win the race previously, you get a success penalty. This is to help close the field up, and you'll have to serve it during your mandatory pit stop. It's a very interesting way of closing the field together, forcing drivers that have had some great runs to think outside the box, to go and see what they need to do to keep up the pace and who will be able to stand at the top. Christoph Peterson, who came first in the Diamond Division, will get 15 seconds. Sean Skitter, who came second place, gets 10. And with our drivers coming in third place, like Ernest Limburg's down in 17th position, he will receive a 5-second success penalty to serve. And this goes and mirrors to each of our different divisions. David Roth holds on to the top of the charts for our Platinums. We'll get a 15-second penalty, as Chris Wall, a little bit further down in 21st, will hold a 10-second penalty. Herman Wepner, who came third, will get a 5-second success penalty. And these then also mirrored down towards our gold drivers as well, as they will start to get that little bit of a build-up and see who stays at the top. So Nico Lawrence with a 15-second penalty, Hanso Foss with a 10, and 5 seconds for Lewis Knight. 15 seconds penalty issued to Rich van Heerd, unfortunately, for contact in the previous race. He's going to have to serve that during his mandatory pit stop. And you heard me right, mandatory pit stop. Drivers will have to think outside of the box, and looking forward to some great racing here. But also, with that mandatory stop, means do you take a set of tires on a blisteringly hot circuit of 44, heading towards 45 degrees in the afternoon here in South Africa, or are you able to keep the cars alive and avoid heavy raining as we make our way off the line? Christoph Peterson will be starting out in first place with Rafa Souza in second place. Sean Skitter will hold on to third. Miles Stone chases down in fourth position with Stephen Milano James down in fifth. First of our Platinum Division, David Roth in sixth position. We'll have Mahath Musa for a bit of company. Andre Sorodio keeps a close eye on his teammates, while he's got David Young looking to take the fight up as well. Urban Whitner rounds out our top 10. Diego Matos leading out our gold division for the Stunt Possum Racing Machine. Gotta say, absolutely beautiful livery, guys. Well done on that car. Is in 11th with David Walshke chasing him down in the Cyber Racing Machine. Brent Heineke, fellow South African, down in 13th for the Griffin Sim Racing Machine. Rob Cox on the return back to ERA, down at 14th. Christian Fengler will be looking to challenge his way through. He's got Henry Platt for a bit of company that missed out on Indianapolis, but will want to take the fight to the sharp end of the field. Ernest Lindbergh's not quite where he wanted to be on the start. Will have to claw his way from 17th as Chris Biermeister will keep him a bit of company there. Chris Wall, Nessam Domingo. These two have shared the track more than once in the past and come to blow more than once in the past. The Logistical Nightmare Racing Team and Project Vapor carry a bit of a team rivalry along with a driver rivalry. Daniel Mutsura, the hard defense from the Japanese driver, will go and find out with Nicholas Porras. Sean Young of the Cyber Racing Machine a little bit further down, 23rd. Cedric Muir and Rick Thomas will be looking to take the fight. Tristan Ocleon holds on to 26th, and on his debut will be dealing with Patrick Bills and Finley Gamble behind him. Finley, after fighting out for first unfortunate contacts, took him out of the running in Indianapolis, has gotten a lot on his shoulders. Ulrich Diaga from the Griffin Sim Racing Machines looking to have a bit of fun out there. We'll get to Rich van Heerd and Hanso Foss, who will be clawing and biting at the top. Benjamin Till a little bit further down, and Dr. Bean is out the car. Benjamin Till now back in the car. His alter ego thrown to one side. Deb Christie will duke it out against L. Perry, and rounding out our field here tonight is Lewis Knight out in the Nissan GTR, the Good Smile Racing Machine, as we go towards our drivers making the way through Cheetah. It is all eyes to the front row, folks. It's all eyes to Christoph Peterson and rival Rafa Souza. Christoph holding the left-hand side will have the advantage into turn 2. But it is a very, very wide corner where we see 3 wide most of the time as they line up. Lights ablaze, lights on, lights on, lights on. Here for round 2 of the ERA Sunday Championship here at Kyalami Midrand as we go lights on, and Jim calls green as we charge our way through. It is a wonderful start from the field as now Christoph guards the line, seeing that Rafa trying to have a go at him. Sean Skitter sleeps into third, drops down behind Miles Stone as they attack the Yuxke sweep for the very first time, and Skitter off into the dirt, saves it, brings it back, and 3 wide through the corner. Stephen Milano James comes in for the fight. He's doing everything he can. He's got David Roth, Sorodio, and Musa trying to close up the distance as, big problems coming in. That is through Sunset, the field getting caught out. And not what they wanted to have so early on in the race. We're going to quickly take a look at what happened there and try and identify what on earth went on with that bit of contact that threw an absolute mad run for the field and between our top echelons. So let's quickly take a look on the replay. And this is from the Project Vapor team. Coming around, looks like Steve Milano James got contact against Sean Skitter that threw them both into disarray. Let's see if we can go a little bit further back and try and find out. As fortunately not getting a good view on the situation. But it was Steve Milano James and Sean Skitter that had that little bit of contact that unfortunately has forced Stephen Milano James out of the server. He has retired the car, and that is not exactly how he wanted to go. Mike Musa behind Ruin Heineke, Dave Broschke now keeping him for company as the drivers make their way around. Ruin Heineke going to be smiling all the way to the bank here, but it is Diego Matos who got a stellar jump on the field. Currently holds on to 4th place. Ruin Heineke runs out wide, trying to close down the field, and Serodio stuck in the middle of turn 2 as the field comes barreling their way around him. And it is going to be likes of Tristan Ocleon, who now has a go at Finley Gamble after going up through the order. Finley now keeping a very close eye on the review mirror. Serodio, miles back, will be going and chomping at the bit to try and move forward as these drivers are battling with the hot tires. They are battling out there to try and keep it all together, and it is graining from top to bottom. Rick Thomas trying to get the run on Richmond Heat, with Sean Young now having a go in through the corner through the first S, was able to put his nose forward and seeing if he has the opportunity to get a run up on the drivers. An absolute tremendous amount of pace, but a couple of drivers starting to feel the pain early on. Sean Skitter being one of those drivers as he now navigates past Lewis Knight and now looks towards El Perry. He has lost out a lot of time and a lot of places. El Perry will be keeping an eye on the mirrors. Now remember, they are fighting out for overall position. There is no room to say, hey, listen, mind out of the way. It's all about being nice if you want to, but it is going to be a race nonetheless. And each of these drivers know you have got to push harder and harder on your way through, no matter what, as we do see Ulrich Diaga trying to have a go. Sean Skitter trying to move up through the field. He's got David Christie looking to try and defend his line, and David not going to be backing down. Difference in classes. Limburg's trying to carve his way up through the field, down in 21st, started in 17th, and now trying to see what works out for him. Serodio going and giving him a little bit of room, gets caught out by Patrick Bills, and Patrick side by side through the Yuxgay sweep with Serodio, managing just to eke out at the last, and now keeps the hammer down. So drivers having a good time out there, some a little bit of a trickier one. Domingo on the back of Cedric Muir, and Cedric not going to make it easy. The Frenchman looking to take the fight to the sharp end of the field, seeing Christian Fengler further up the road, second place in the gold division, while Issam Domingo a little bit further down in the platinums, trying to make up that little bit of time out here on the circuit, trying to see what exactly is going to work out for him and where can they make up that little bit of time to stay in for the fight. I mean, these are always difficult situations. These are always difficult times, and our drivers having to really think outside the box on what they need to do to stay at the sharp end of the field early on as we entering our first 5 minutes of the race completed. Unfortunately, one driver out of this tremendous field. That was Stephen Milano James, who started out towards the top as, oh, that's Finley Gamble getting it out of shape, able to save it from the wall, and now having Rick Thomas coming around the outside. A bit of a moment for Finley Gamble through Cheetah, ran out wide and managed to keep it out of the wall only just, but had to really think outside the box how to keep that car alive. And I do think he's wearing his brown pants today. Definitely not going and wearing white right now. Limburgs going and getting ahead of Sean Young, who will now tail on and look for any opportunity, pull his way through. Sean Skitter going and past Nicholas Porras through the inside of the XCA sweep, now into barbecue. Now sets his sights firmly onto Rodeo. Nicholas Porras and Patrick Bells trying to move up through the order. They have got Benjamin Till on the back of him, trying to close up the distance as well. The Irish driver going and giving it everything he can to stay at the sharp end of the field for his class, but needs to keep a very close eye on what needs to be done. Hanso Foss, however, has taken an absolute beating this race and is down in 35th, miles off the pack. A driver that was originally second place in the beautiful circuit of Indianapolis, now going and just driving a very, very lonely race at this stage of the game. Diego Matos holds on to 4th place in the gold division, and he's got our 2 diamond divisions behind him. Now, for those that are wondering, diamond, platinum, gold, well, think about it this way. Pro, Pro-Am, and Am. Gold is our Am, Diamond is our Pro, and Pro-Am is Platinum, as our drivers will be looking to move forward. It's a big fight. Heineke trying to defend the line against Musa. The two of them brawling out with one another as they're fighting for 4th in class, and also for a bit of bragging rights between the South Africans. They've got David Borski for a bit of company, and David not going to make it any easier for them. Leads out the Platinum division, has got a lot on his plate with David Young behind him and Henry Platt trying to close up in 3rd place. Herman Whitner on the back of fellow South African. We'll keep an eye on the mirrors as Chris Wall trying to close up the distance between them. Christian Fengler holds on to 2nd place in class. Has got Cedric Beer for a bit of company as well, as they're a little bit further down the order. Cedric will be keeping the pressure on. Isam Domingo, who is in the platinum class, separates them, and the brand new driver Tristan Ocleon, who holds on to that 15th position overall, trying to see where exactly they can get the run. Musa still on the back of Heineke as they lose track of Diego Matos. It's Christoph Peterson, Rafa Souza, and Milestone. They managed to open up the distance to one another. Christoph 2 seconds to Rafa. Miles 4 seconds off the back of Rafa, trying everything he can to make it work at this stage of the game. However, it is a long, long race. An hour on this circuit, especially with the temperatures the way they are, makes racing a little bit tricky. Heavy graining on the fronts. You'll start to feel tremendous understeer, especially through the XK sweep. That starts to take a little bit of impact. That's David Christie and Al Perry coming to blows with one another. Not ideal situation for the 294 driver and the 988 driver that landed up with that little bit of contact. Let's quickly go to a replay and find out what happened. Down in towards the Crocodile. Al Perry later on the brakes. Oh, just catches the rear. And unfortunately, a quick turnaround going and waiting for the driver. The tip of the hat, I've got to say, well done to Al Perry, giving that little bit of a nod saying, sorry, that was my fault. Allowed the driver to retake. Unfortunately, both drivers hemorrhaged positions at this stage of the game. Now, interesting move coming in. Nicholas Porras dives into pit lane to get his pit stop done and dusted, and will be going out onto the circuit. So it's going to be an interesting race on his part to try and get that pit stop sorted out and get back out on the circuit, not wanting to lose out too much time. But also, is he going for a tremendous undercut with 10 minutes into this race? This is a very, very interesting call that we've seen in the past works really well, but can backfire tremendously as well for all the drivers. Now, we do have a bit of contact early on in the race that he will be getting some repair work to that car, and that was against the 15. So this is, and we want to go to our driver, and Nicholas Porras, going and having a little bit of contact at the top of Leerkop, now trying to keep himself into place. So our replay system having a little bit of fun here tonight. But Nicholas coming out of pit lane now sees Chris Wall trying to make his way past. There is Christian Fengler to move up as well. Tremendous pace between our drivers at this stage of the game, but Nicholas Boris will be miles down the pack and seeing what can be done at this stage of the game. I mean, this is just a difficult race to be in with the heat, and drivers will have to think a little bit outside of what they can do, maybe tone it down on their drive. Well, Cedric Muir deciding it a little bit different as he tries to go around the outside of Christian Fengler. Didn't quite work. Isam Domingo immediately closed up behind them. You can see Nicholas Porras, who they overtook, is now just keeping his pace with them, following them through and trying to see what's going to work out. Domingo trying to close up under braking, had to back out of it as he looked for the inside of Cedric Muir up over the crest, couldn't quite get it done, and unfortunately had to back out of it. As we do see Nicholas mining out of the way, this allows Tristan Ocleon to go around the outside, down the mine shaft, getting a good run, and now looks to try and close up to this battle as Nicholas a little too deep into the corner, sees in Ernest Limburgs having a go at him, and now wanting to close up that little bit of difference. Sean Skitter on the back of Rick Thomas, the Just Called Nightmare Racing team, and the reasonably young team of Extreme Sim Racing going and having a stellar run out there. Rick Thomas going and showing a bit of pace towards the sharp end in the field as another driver into the pits, and that's Bron Cox who's into the pits. So Cox diving into pit lane for an early stop as well, as Sean Skitter dives down the inside trying to see if he can make it work against Rick Thomas. He does, however, manage to get the car just ahead through the Yuxke sweep, but with a deep breath indeed to try and make it work out. Henry Platt onto the back of David Young, and these two know each other from racing in various leagues. David Young bouncing over the curbs, trying to keep it all well enough alive at this stage of the game, has got Platt right on his tail. Herman Wepner, the fellow South African, will be trying to close up to the Moscow Motorsport machine, and that BMW will now need a little bit of a getting up as we 7 laps into this race. Christoph Peterson holds the fastest lap time in his class, and the reason why I do bring that up, because you get a single point for being the fastest driver out there in your class, and so far every single season for the past 5 seasons has been that single point makes or breaks the race and the championship for each of our drivers, having to really think outside of the box, trying to move through the order, and everyone needing to see what on earth they can do to stay at the sharp end of this championship, where it gets rather tight all the way through. Domingo closing up at a rate of not, trying to see if he can get a little bit closer towards the sharp end of the field. Has got Cedric Muir for a bit of company, dives down the inside into turn 2, couldn't quite make it work as Christian Fengler sees him in the mirrors, also taking a deep breath. Domingo makes the pass but couldn't quite get the exit. Now through the XA sweep into barbecue, it is going to be Cedric closing up that door just a little bit, killing off the drive, and it's Tristan Ocleon who is now in towards the mix. Limburgs also as well takes a dive on the inside. He gets past Tristan, looks to try and clear the Project Vapor of Isam Domingo. Late on the anchor, swings it around the outside. Can he get the drive? A little bit of a step out from the McLaren. Tristan now in for the mix as it's side by side in the S's. Ernest Limburgs takes a risk there, but Domingo around the outside keeps it together. Tristan Ocleon now trying to have a go up into Leocorp. Limburgs had to defend his line, but man, oh man, well done to both drivers to keep it alive through a very difficult portion of the circuit. But now they're going to have to get that little bit more of a run, as we do get reports that Sean Young off in towards the dirt, and that looks like possibly Benjamin Till as well. So Benjamin Till called into a problem. The 337 going and waiting out for Sean Young to rejoin the circuit. As he does rejoin, a little bit of contact between himself and Al Perry. There is Benjamin waiting his time and saying, right, sorry, my fault on that one. Young able to rejoin, but miles down from where he originally wanted to be. Limburgs and Domingo now taking the fight to one another, and it looks like Domingo is not going to make it easy for the Diamond driver, as Limburgs losing track of his fellow competition further up the field will be going and biting his bottom lip at this stage of the game, trying to get past Domingo, who's soaking up the pressure, putting a solid fight, however costing him a bit of time. Cedric Muir now onto the back of Christian Fengler as they fight out for second and third in class. Christian runs out wide, Cedric going and running out a little bit further than that, trying to push a bit harder at this stage of the game. Diego Matos going and leading out our gold division at this stage of the game. Christoph Peterson, Rafa Souza, and Miles Stone hold on to the top three in the Diamond. Dave Rolski, Henry Platt, and Herman Whitner go and chase each other down for the top three of our Platinum. And right behind them, David Young, waiting in the wings for an opportunity to get the pass done, as Platt holds a solid defense. The first time out in the BMW here at Kyalami, after racing the big Bentley for such a long time, we'll now see what he needs to do. Sean Skitter a little bit further down, sees Rodeo dive on the inside to get it done. The two Hondas trying to keep it well enough alive. Nico Lawrence will be keeping a very close eye on these two, not to lose a little bit, as Patrick got a stellar drive on them. So a bit of contact between Rodeo and Skitter, costing both drivers time during the course of this race, and it's turning into a bit of a nightmare situation. Bron Cox still in pit lane, and looks like he will be out of the running as well. Not what he wanted to have, but one driver who did undercut the entire field, Nicholas Porras, up to 32nd position. Ulrich Diaga, followed by Daniel Mutsuma, and a drive-through penalty for Ulrich Diaga for track limits. And now just serving a very, very long drive-through at this stage of the game here at Kyalami, down at 50 kilometers an hour. 50 kilometers an hour. Will get back onto the power and rejoin. I had to think about that one, because at some moments it was 60 in the past, not here in ACC, but in reality. And good to see that he's able to rejoin, but not quite what he wanted to have. And that is a clear indication to the field of drivers going and pushing the limits, and picking up those drive-through penalties can turn into a nightmare for anyone's race during the course of this. As we do see, this is Benjamin Till getting the run on Sean Young, and Sean Skitter go a little bit further down, just hemorrhaging time at this stage of the game, and is absolutely hurting in terms of pace, and not going to be too happy on that one as he tries to figure out what's going to work out for him. So let's quickly go and take a look what happened to Sean Skitter and Sorodio. This is out through turn 2 into the XK sweep, clips the curb, got a little bit unsteady, and then had Sorodio have the lightest contacts against the back of him, turning him a bit around, and unfortunately that turned into a nightmare situation. And unfortunately for Sorodio, not much you can do when there's a car parked in your way and you're having to try and navigate your way around. Ruan Heineke getting a little bit of pressure from first in the Platinum division, trying to close up the distance at this stage of the game, looking to try and move forward. However, it is going to be a big run for the two drivers, as now Ruan Heineke looks to try and move forward on Mahath Musa, has to watch a review mirror at this stage of the game. David Borski in every right to go for an overtake if he feels it can be done, as Issam Domingo, a hard defense against the likes of Limburgs, two different classes out there. Domingo not wanting to lose out time, and I think the red mist has most certainly kicked in at this stage of the game, as Limburgs try to go for the pass, but Domingo is on a hard defense, trying to go on the attack to Cedric Muir, and there is Limburgs down the inside, had to force the pass to get done, and Domingo now down into 15th position, but for Limburgs, he had to try and put a dive down the inside to make it work. Cedric Muir and Christian Fengler now having a go. Cedric down on the inside. Oh, the two of them come into blows, and it is a little bit of a save for Cedric. Christian Fengler was able to keep it well enough alive. And here comes Finley Gamble. Tried to gamble for Cheetah. Couldn't quite get it done and dusted. Ruin Heineke diving into pit lane, deciding enough is enough. He's got to get himself sorted out here as Fengler allows likes of Limburgs to clear on by immediately. Domingo comes back at him. So now Fengler has to just keep a rocketing charge to get right behind Limburgs and sees Domingo all over the back of him. Ruin Heineke going and deciding the easy pit now, trying to avoid all the carnage and see if he can get an undercut on the field. 38 minutes to go, nearly towards the halfway mark here for round 2, and drivers trying everything they can to move forward. Now let's talk about some of our hardest charges out there, because there is a number of them. Lewis Knight up 15 positions from where he started. He's just ahead of Finley Gamble, up 13 positions. And Tristan Ocleon, who is making his debut here tonight, 12 positions up from where he started this race. Unfortunately, a number of drivers way down from where they want to be. Sean Skitter is the hardest hurt out of them, down 24 positions, and is absolutely mincing his teeth at this stage of the game, really trying to keep it all together. So far, top speed from the drivers have been El Perry and the likes of Benjamin Till, 243 kilometers an hour. The rest of the field sitting at 239 as the quickest between them. And that does tell you how the stage of the game is going for each of the drivers going and moving forward. Now, let's talk about some of the pit stops here. Starting with Ruin Heineke, was stopped in the box for 35 seconds. A little bit of repair work and fuel. Total time in and out through pit lane was 59 seconds. Just under a minute, and has taken a fresh set of boots on the car, hoping that will help him out, as he does see Ulrich Diaga ahead of him, who's already served the drive-through, and Hanso Foss, who is for position further up the road. Andre Sorodio diving into pit lane, will be keeping a very close eye on the field as well, not wanting to lose track of time. Here is Mahath Musa dealing with David Broschke, ahead of him Diego Matos, and it's a great showing as Diego Matos leads out the gold division. David Broschke leads out the platinum, and they have got 4th place of our diamond division separating them. And Mahath Musa just keeping a solid drive at the moment, not wanting to push too hard at this stage of the game, wanting to slowly but surely keep an eye on what on earth goes on and where he can gain a little bit of time here, knowing that his teammates a little bit further down haven't had the easiest of races. Will be keeping a close eye on the field. Herman Whitner going and fighting against Henry Platt. Two South Africans going door to door with one another, and Herman will be getting a bit of a chat from a little pit boss that joins him in his streams, going and telling him, "Go faster, Dad, go faster." Well, Herman Whitner and Henry Platt will be keeping an eye as Platt decides pulling into pit lane, and is the first of those in the top 10 to get the pit stop done and dusted. He will be hoping that he gets out ahead of Limburgs, who comes barreling around Ingwe at the moment and having good run. So this is an interesting call, because Ruin Heineke, who's now up in Leerkorp, heading down the mine shaft, is the only other Diamond Division driver that has done a pit stop. So Henry Platt going and seeing what he can do as a platinum driver to try and see if he can move up through the order, as Sorodio is the only one, well, is part of 2. Daniel Mutsua down in 34th is the only 2 of our platinums that have done their pit stop. That is mandatory out here. So an interesting call. Hanso Foss also opting, now that they got to 35 minutes, the tires starting to drop off, not going to be too keen on that one. Will be looking to keep it all together. Musa defends against David Broschke, who tries to leg it around the outside. Couldn't quite get it done and dusted. Waits out that little bit longer, and will now have to keep an eye on the run as we jump on the rear of Mahath Musa with David Broschke right behind him. Broschke not gonna be too happy. We're late on the anchors, trying to see if he can close up, a little bit twitchy underneath him under braking, and having to try keep that car well enough alive at this stage of the game. You can also see taking a more cautious approach through Cheetah as he dives into the pit lane. Interesting call coming in for Diego Matos and David Broschke, both diving into the pits, both leading their classes. Will leave the rest of the field as Herman Whitner comes on by and is up into first for the Platinum Division. Christian Fingler, will he react? He's going to keep his foot on the throttle, taking over the lead in the Gold Division. So interesting call coming in for Fingler to try and make it work, as we do see Hanso Foss leading pit lane as this entire train comes barreling past him. Domingo trying to close up. Tristan Ocleon along with Cedric Muir and Finley Gamble trying to close up the distance. Rick Thomas a little bit further back is not part of the train, but we'll be seeing what he can do to stay in the fight. Hanso Foss has Finley Gamble for a bit of company, and these two know each other rather well from Indianapolis, and Foss having a nightmare of a race at this stage of the game, trying to keep it well enough alive and just circulate at this stage of the game as Cedric going in towards the dirt, losing a bit of time. Finley Gamble takes a dive on the inside of Hanso Foss to try and clear him. Hanso going in a little blip of the throttle just to go and let Finley get on by, but also not to lose too much time. Tristan Ocleon onto the back of Domingo, now hunting down, look towards the inside through Leokup, couldn't quite get it done. Domingo, who's been brawling with everyone at the moment. Red Mist most certainly down on the Project Vapor driver, and I do think there is going to be a little bit of a words of, hey mate, just take it a little bit easy out there. Take a deep breath. There is a longer race at hand here. There is a long race at hand as well, and you've got to keep an eye out on what you need to do. Diego Matos, Dabrowski holding first and second of those that have done their pit stop. Chris Wall is the next to dive in for the top 10, as we also do see Cedric Muir diving into the pits as well. So quite a few drivers now starting to react to the situations behind, starting to understand, hold on, I've got to get some moves and big runs up through the order. Remember, there's still the success penalties. Christoph Peterson, Herman Wepner, Ernest Lindbergs, Nico Lawrence, who now dives in towards the pit lane and will be getting himself sorted out. So, sorry, Nico Lawrence hasn't gone to pit lane. David Roth, Lewis Knight have got success penalties. Red Frenhead, he's got a penalty still needing to serve, and that will be done on his pit stop. And they're all reacting to Diego Matos, and that is going to be a very close eye on it, as both Diego, Broschke, Heineke all come barreling their way through. Sean Skitter, who is still trying to make up time after he got caught out at the start of the race with Stephen Milana James in lap 1 through sunset, and the two of them getting tangled up. And from there, Sean Skitter has unfortunately been a cat on a hot tin roof. He's called Skitty, and not the Pokemon Skitty, but is a cat that got caught out and now trying to make his way through. Diego Matos currently leads out those who have done their pit stop. He's down in 18th position. Right behind him, David Roschke, and you can see Ruben Heineke keeping full company a little bit further back. Henry Platt in 21st has got Sean Skitter, who still needs to get that stop done, and does it. Chris Wall is third of those platinum drivers that have yet done their pit stops, and we do have Ruben Heineke, who currently is the only one on the Diamond Division that has done their pit stop, leaving our top 17 to still keep that little bit of pace to see where on earth is going to work out. Christian Fingler now needing to defend from Domingo, and there is Ocleon, who's second in the gold class. Keeping an eye on Fingler. He knows that he needs to try and make it work. However, is he going to put his nose forward, or is he going to wait for Domingo to get aggressive, going for the pass? Blue flags waving for the Cyber Racing Machine, for our Ferrari, trying to keep it all together out there and still keeping a solid run. Sean Young has been on a solid drive right now, and it's good to see him back out on the circuit with a big smile on his face. He's had a few up and down moments during the course of his racing career of late, and has been trying to keep positive. A stop-go 30-second penalty comes in for Cedric Muir, unfortunately for speeding in pits. So Cedric Muir, a stop-go 30 throws any chance of a top 3 out of the run for the Gold Division driver. Not what he wanted to have, and those penalties starting to go and take a little bit of impact out there. Soup going and sending a howser to everyone, and finally off work, dived all the way onto a plane here to Kyalami in Midrand, and to watch out for Lewis Knight. It's wonderful to have you out here, and it's good that you finally made it after work. A bit of a short flight to get here to the ERA Sunday Championship round 2 of season 18, as Domingo dives into pit lane, releasing Ocleon to go after Fengler. Now it's an interesting run because Miles Stone, who was one of our top runners in the top 3, pulls into the pits. Domingo and Rick Thomas pull into the pits. They will keep an eye on David Broschke and Henry Platt further adrift down the field. Chris Biermeister will be keeping a close eye on that. He's opting to keep his foot firmly planted as he's behind Lewis Knight at the moment, trying to utilize a little bit of that top end to see if he can stay in for the fight. And Benjamin Till dives into the pits to get himself sorted out. So a few movers and shakers so far in this race. A number of drivers trying to see what on earth they can do to stay in for the top running of the order. So far, our leader, Christoph Peterson, holds a 10-second lead to Rafa Sosa in second place. He's got to get another 5 seconds split between the two to go and mitigate that stop and hold 15-second success penalty that he received after winning Indianapolis. As a success penalty is to bring the field closer, but you're going to have to think outside the box here and really push it to the limit. He's 11 seconds now in separate, as we do see Domingo coming out of pit lane with Rick Thomas keeping up towards him. Domingo holds the inside line, runs out a little bit wide on a cold set of tires. He does have a bit of a worn out tire set for Rafa, who's now hunting down first place, and this is just hurting his run as Musa and Limburgs dive into pit lane. For Rafa, this is frustrating to have as the gap starting to widen between himself and Peterson. Whitner now up into third place overall with all the pit stops happening. Has got David Young for a bit of company. Tristan Ocleon, Maeth Musa, Limburgs, and David Roth all dive into the pits as our next round of pit stops coming into play for our drivers. And we're starting to see more and more of those utilizing the pit stops, getting those success penalties out of the way, leaving Rich Van Heerd, who's now dived into the pits to serve his 15-second penalty and will be getting his mandatory pit stop underneath his belt and back out. Milestone leading out those that have done their pit stops has got Maeth Musa, who's trying to close up. Here comes Diego Matos and David Borschke. They're going to swing around the outside, trying to close up the distance. It is going to be a worst case scenario for them and Musa, because here comes Ruben Heineke for a little bit of a mugging through the XK sweep. And it is going to be Borschke who gets a little bit of a slowdown, allowed Heineke to get into it. And Christoph Peterson and Sosa into the pits to get their pit stops done and dusted. 25 minutes left on the board and 50 seconds. So you could say 25 minutes and some change out here at Kyalami as the Bries are firing up right around the circuit. Everyone enjoying the racing action for round 2 of our ERA Sunday Championship on a blisteringly hot circuit here in South Africa, Kyalami Midrand, and drivers really trying to give it that extra little bit of pep to their step, trying to see where exactly they can move forward. It is always a rough call on who's going to stay at the sharp end of the field, but who's going to be able to carry the momentum through. Nonetheless, it is all about how you make it work. It's all about what you need to do to make it work, and drivers doing everything they can to stay at the sharp end of the field will be keeping a close eye. As you can see, Broschke trying to go on the attack of Diego Matos, who sees Fengler and Lawrence into the pit lane, and now leaving Chris Biermeister, Herman Whitner, and David Young as the only drivers out on circuit yet to complete their mandatory pit stop. And that is going to change up how the race is done. Matos on the back of Miles on Maeth Musa. We'll see Borski, Heineke, Platt now into the train as well as they sweep across the circuit. All trying their hand of moving forward. Finley Gamble getting the run on Christian Fengler. The Track Tool team not able to get ahead of the 2ID. And the 2ID having a stellar run. Oh, Ruben Heineke into the wall. Coming out of Barbecue, clipped the dirt into the wall and unfortunately lost out to the train. He was holding on to oh so dearly, and look at the front of the car. Severe damage to his car. Nico Lawrence with a stop-go 30-second penalty. The understeer is horrendous as Ruben Heineke trying to cool the tires down and also try and figure out what can he do to bring this car back towards itself. Herman Wepner into the pits, releasing David Young to lead out the race in total. Chris Biermeister will be the next one considering his options here. Will he dive into the pit, get his pit stop done and dusted, or will he go that extra lap? He's going to hold to the left, slow the car down, and is able to get himself into pit lane, leaving David Young, the only driver yet to do the last mandatory pit stop. Nico Lawrence will have to get back into the pits to serve his stop-go 30-second. 36 drivers started this race. 34 remain out on circuit. And at the moment, it is a wild fight. Rafa Sosa holds on to first in class as he managed to get the jump on Christoph Peterson, who had to serve. Oh, that is a problem. Nicholas Porras, Cedric Muir getting caught out, as we did see as they came through. And let's quickly see if we can try and figure out what on earth happened to the drivers. And that was a wild moment. Cedric and Nicholas Porras side by side through the sweep. And it was Cedric who got the jump into Yuxke, ran out wide, lost out the drive. Nicholas Porras coming back at him side by side once again. And, oh, unfortunately, Nicholas was keeping an eye to the left-hand side, moved a little to the right. Cedric moved a little bit to the left to try and put a bit of pressure on Nicholas Porras. Unfortunately, not realizing that Christoph Peterson was sitting, and that just put the squeeze on Nicholas. Unfortunately, put him in the wall. Both drivers losing out a lot of time, and it was nearly catastrophe for this man here, Christoph Peterson, who was just taking a breath, hoping not to have a problem, as David Young finally into pit lane, serving his stop of the race. Drivers now racing their way through and racing their hearts out. David Young hoping that he has done enough to beat out this car. David Broschke, who's now making his way into Ingwe. He's got Platt, Wepner and Wall looking to try and chase his way through, as Young still parked in the pits. Borski will retake the lead of his class with Henry Platt up into second. Herman Wepner will be the next one to come on through, but is it going to be enough to get ahead of David Young, who's just exiting pit lane, heading down towards turn 2. Wepner will carry the momentum, but it's David Young who's going to try his luck, switches right back in to hold the line in front of Ulrich de Jager, who's a lap down on the pack. So, with our pit stops done and dusted, let's take a look at who's sitting where. Rafa Sosa, Christoph Peterson, and Miles Stone hold on to the top 3 overall and in the diamond class. Myers Musa holds on to 4th place, 4th in diamonds. Diego Matos, first of the gold drivers, in 5th place at the moment, going and having a stellar run out there. David Broschke holds on to the lead for the platinum. He is in 6th with Henry Platt. Chase give down Herman Wepner, David Young, and Chris Wall rounding out our top 10. Platinum Wepner holding on to 2nd and 3rd respectively for their class. Finley Gamble, who tails Chris Wall, 2nd in the gold class, is on a stellar run in 11th. And Christian Fengler holding 3rd in the gold class, lying in 12th. Ernest Limburgs up into 13th position. Has got Tristan Ocleon, Patrick Bowles, along with Issam Domingo in 16th, Rick Thomas, David Roth, Andre Sorodia, and Chris Biermeister rounding out our top 20. Al Perry, David Christie a little bit further down has got Lewis Knight for a bit of company, finding on for 23rd position. Benjamin Till down in 24th with Ruben Heineke up to 25th. Rich Van Eed, after serving his penalty, is in 26th position. It's got Sean Young. Sean Skitter a little bit further down in 28th. Hanso Foss and Cedric Muir continue their drive out. Nico Lawrence continues his drive after a stop-go 32nd. He's in 31st. Nicholas Porras, Ulrich de Jager, and Daniel Mutua round out the pack. Daniel landing up with a disconnect and had to rejoin, now down on the rest of the field, trying to keep up the pace and see where he can close up the distance. With 19 minutes to go, the race is on for the lead as Peterson finally caught up to Rafa Souza late on the brakes, a little too late towards Leocorp, ran out wide. Rafa held the inside line, stopped it dead on the apex to ensure that he keeps that car going, and now the two challenge one another down the mine shaft, heading towards Crocodile, and no one able to see who has got the upper end on one another, the edge of where they need to go, as both running out wide will be flirting with track limits out through Cheetah. It's all about minimizing mistakes at this stage of the game, and Peterson, an absolute monster on the brakes, just not able to get past the brick wall ahead of him of Ratha, who's having a stellar run. Miles Stone, who's way off the mark of these, is 10 seconds back, but another fight for the lead of the class. Dave Rolski and Henry Platt having a go at one another. Platt right into the slipstream at the moment, sees Diego Matos further up the road, and knowing that Diego is providing a little bit of a slipstream to David Rolski at this stage of the game as they try and figure their way through. And whoa, big choice for David Rolski to go towards the inside into turn 2. Henry Platt going to try to go around the outside and just gets pushed to the fringes of the circuit. David Rolski going and utilizing the entire width of the circuit to try and hold back Platt. Very well done, but also quite frustrating to be behind as well. And Platt needing to take a deep breath, focus on his moment, and see what he can do, knowing that Dave Broschke keeps going super defensive on his lines and slowing it on the apex. Possibly might be an idea to just hold the racing line. As Broschke keeps moving off it, it might be an opportunity to just figure out that little bit of pace and just keep applying the pressure, as they now sitting a second behind Diego Matos. Ernest Lindbergh's trying to move his way up through the order. It's got Finley Gamble trying to have a go, and Christian Fingler closing on behind. Christian third in class, sees Gamble, who holds on for second. Lindbergh's down in 12th, definitely trying everything he can to see if he can get that pass done and dusted. However, making life a little bit tricky out there. Another long queue of drivers is Chris Biermister trying to close up to Sorodio, El Perry, Dave Christie, Lewis Knight, and Benjamin Till, unfortunately, way off this train. But David Christie trying to go after El Perry, and now Lewis Knight also getting the drive on him. It is a to and fro for David Christie. He needs to get the pass hooked in and done. If he doesn't, it allows Lewis Knight to close up. For El Perry, every time he gets very defensive and tries to parry the moves, well, he's now having to lose a little bit of time to Chris Biermister. David Christie going to go the long way around through Leocorp, trying to bring it back. Lewis Knight looked towards the inside line and couldn't quite get the drive. So a very close race nonetheless from our competitors. Cedric Muir trying to close up the distance as he is in for a fight with one of the Project Vapor teams, and seeing that was Mahath Musa who just went and overtook him. Henry Platt and David Broschke continue on their brawl yet again. No one having the upper hand on one another. Platt trying everything he can to get this pass done and dusted. He's sitting right into the mirrors there, forcing Broschke to look around and try and see where he can get that pass done and dusted. However, having a tough time out there. 15 minutes and 15 seconds to go left in this race. It's now just a waiting game until the final minutes of this race to try and see where it's going to work. Borschke is more than happy to sweep across the circuit at this stage of the game, and is more than happy to walk Henry Platt off the circuit as he dives towards the inside line into the Crocodile. Slowed him up way too much there as he's fishing for any opportunity to try and make it work. Limburgs onto the back of Finley Gamble, pulls Christian Fingler a little bit closer, as well as Patrick going side by side with Domingo. Domingo had the upper hand by taking the inside line through Leocorp And once again, these are two different classes. Patrick sits in the gold division. Domingo in the platinum division is able to keep up that little bit more of a pace. Dave Christie, Lewis Knight with L. Perry in the Nissan GTR up the road. L. Perry once again holds the apexes up at Learcorp, allowing David Christie to try and work his way around the outside. Not an easy time to get it done, and everyone trying to figure out what can be the ultimate plan here as time starts to tick away. L. Perry going to the middle of the circuit, slows up the car on the apex to try and make it, and that fouls up David Christie and Lewis Knight at the same time as they fight out for 21st, 22nd, and 23rd position. Sean Young, a little bit further back, battling out against Richmond Heat. Now the Englishman trying his hand at the South African, who has a stellar run at this stage of the game. Richard not having an easy race at the moment, as unfortunately yet another retirement coming through. We're down to 33 drivers in this race, so we are starting to lose drivers as time has gone on. As drivers have been pushing harder and harder, they've been losing a little bit of pace and not having their way out here in South Africa. Not what we want to see. We want to see drivers seeing the green to see the checkered on the way through with some incredible racing. Unfortunately, some experiencing technical difficulties, loses that little bit of time. Dave Christie sweeps over the nose, defending against Lewis Knight. L. Perry going and keeping it all together, but only just at this stage of the game, as we keep an eye on so many different brawls right through the circuit. So many close driving between each of it. There's just silos around the track of everyone trying their hand as, Darren Christie got it all out of shape, tried to lunge for the inside on L. Perry, and that just absolutely cost him time as Lewis Knight capitalized on the mistake, dives down through the kink, down the mine shaft, and Darren Christie able to send it, and a little too hard into Crocodile, tries to come back. It's going to be Lewis Knight as side by side through Cheetah, and Darren deciding the better of the two to lift and avoid clipping any problems there. Will sit behind Lewis Knight. Frustration eventually got the better of him, and well done on a stellar lift, knowing not quite going to make this. You're either going to hook Cheetah or I'm going to hook the grass, and that's going to take both of us out of our races. Rather to back off that little bit more and carry to live on another day here at Kyalami for round 2 of the championship. Rafa still holds on to the lead of the race, 28 laps in, and they've got Hanso Foss further up the road. Hanso Foss, to point out, is in a fight with Sean Young and Richmond Heat. So those three ahead are in their own fight and can absolutely cause chaos to the leaders of the race. They can quite easily box each other in, but also for the three ahead, they are fighting for position, and I don't think we'll be keeping an eye on their mirrors at this stage of the game. Each of them trying their absolute best out there, having a stellar run, a stalwart performance, but it's still a very close game. Now we'll have the two leaders come at them at a rate of knots, and first of those is going to be Hanso Foss to keep a very close eye on the field as Rafa trying to eye out his opportunity as he makes his way to Learcorp, swings it around, trying to carry the momentum through, hoping for Hanso Foss to lift, to give him that little bit of room. He does not want to be caught out. A quick flash of light saying, hey buddy, I'm coming through, but it's Hanso Foss who's got his eyes firmly forward, runs out wide, indicates to the right hand side saying, I'm moving here, you go left, and it's Christoph into the dirt, getting short-sighted there and losing out a bit of time. I do want to take my hat off to Hanso Foss on that one. Well done on indicating where you're gonna go, and that really does help. It's a little thing here in ACC to have the indicators. Not many drivers think about it, not many drivers utilize it, but that form of communication that's utilized in the real world racing, utilized out in our everyday driving, does help out as a racer. as a car passing through the field, you're able to understand where they're going to position their cars so you can navigate around. That's something I do wish most sims, if not all, will be able to implement in the future and to carry it over into the various ones. I'm especially looking at iRacing. Please, indicators, come on. As ACC has really shown it works rather well and drivers utilize it. Something that's actually utilized here in the ERA training as well to indicate to drivers, hey, listen, let's keep it all together here. Let's try and see what we can do. Now, Richmond Head is battling against the likes of Sean Young, who is having a great run up on the back of him. But now Rafa Sosa will be looking to try and clear on pass. So Young holds his line and holds a racing line. Moves over to the right to try and have a look at Richmond Head. He does lose out that drive. Has Rafa come around the outside. Christoph Peterson managed to close up the distance, but it's side by side heading into the cheetah. Little lift from Young to try and keep it going. But now here comes Richmond Head, and Rafa is going to have to clear very, very quickly as he comes barreling out of Ingwe. Christoph Peterson managing to get the pass on Young. Now sees that Rafa is in the slipstream of Richard, and now needing to try and get round. Richard holds his racing line, will be keeping a close eye on the field, and there is the dive from Rafa to try and clear on pass. Christoph tried to look to get his way through and unfortunately couldn't quite get it done. Searches around. Young sees an opportunity through the Yuxke sweep in towards Barbecue, and unfortunately couldn't quite get the drive out. As we enter the last 7 minutes and 37 seconds, it is a manic fight up and down through the field in each of the different classes. I mean, Borschke and Platt fighting out for class position. Platt currently leads out the Platinum. Borschke holds on second. Wepner holds on to third place. And as drivers are giving that extra little bit towards the end, we're looking forward to having a chat to the drivers at the end of the race to get a bit of an understanding of how it was out there on a blistering hot track. It's over 45 degrees now on the circuit. It is massively hot. The tires are blistering. It's starting to fall away underneath them. And now it's that final push. Limburg's down in 11th position, looking at the top 10 and looking fifth in his class, has got Chris Wall ahead of him. Chris trying to keep it all together. The two drivers know each other rather well. Former teammates in the Logistical Nightmare Racing team. The Fear the Bones team has become a legend in its own right and has become one to keep an eye out for, especially here in the world of ERA. Lewis I, Noel Perry, once again having a go at one another. Young trying to close up to Richard van Heed. Nico Lawrence and Cedric Muir also in a fight between one another as they continue to brawl on. Coming out of turn 2, Rafa holds on to the lead, but only just at this stage of the game. Trying everything he can is Christoph, throwing the car around, keeping a very close eye as they aim towards Sunset. You can see the Boma to the left-hand side. It's been there for quite some time, and it's a viewing spot for VIPs as they get to see these two titans going around the circuit, and our pro drivers here in Server 1 going and fighting out in Diamond, Platinum, and Gold for the top spot. Through the S's, through the left, through the right, and now gently on the throttle over the rumble strips, now up over the crest as they get on the anchors. Down to first gear, a little bit of engine braking, a bit of correction coming in as Christoph throwing the car around, feeling that he is trying everything he can to get that lead of the race back after a critical pit stop coming into play. And it was Rafa who was able to capitalize due to that success penalty that happened to Christoph Pearson. Behind them, Richard van Heed, Sean Young, and we could see a little bit further behind is the Mercedes of Hanso Voss, who's closed up the gap to them as well. Wonderful, wonderful driving right the way through as we keep an eye on all the little battles right the way through. Our closest being this one. Sosa and Peterson not giving an inch, with Peterson looking down the inside into turn 2, late on the anchors. Can he make it work the second time round as the two of them brawl it out? Rafa having to straighten up the steering, and it was Peterson who was able to get that done. A little bit of rubbing and racing on the way through, but now leads the race yet again. For the next 4 minutes, he's got to feel the pressure as Rafa is going to be bringing down the hammer on him. Limburgs and Chris Wall is the next little fight that has come into play for the top 10 overall. Limburgs just not getting the drive underneath them, battling to keep it all together. Lewis Knight and El Perry, the fight of the Godzillas. This is literally, it is a fight of the kaijus right now. The question is, who is Mecha Godzilla and who is the original Godzilla that are fighting it out at this stage of the game? Oh, with Lewis Knight out there with a bit of Hanumiku on the side of the car. We'll be seeing if he can get ahead of El Perry, who holds the green at this stage of the game. Benjamin Till and Sean Skitter keep close to one another, with Ruben Heineke onto the back of that train as well. Rich Van Eed, Sean Young and Hunso Foss keep each other company as they fight their way through in this race. Nico Lawrence and Cedric Muir are the next of the brawlers out at the top. Christoph Peterson managing to open up a second to Rafa Sosa. Once he was able to clear, he's able to open up the distance. For the next 3 minutes though, drivers are going to be pushing it to the limit. Cedric trying to break the toe down the mine shaft, and that cost him a little bit of time. Swept across the nose of Nico Lawrence, who tried to come back at him. Couldn't quite get that drive as they make their way into Cheetah. A quick dab of the brakes, down the gear, and really see what they could do. Cedric swinging left to right. Nico Lawrence trying to see where he can get on by, sniffing the exhaust right now, and is close enough to see where exactly he can go. What is the opportunity? And right behind them, they do have one of the racing team of the Team Extreme Sim Racing. Trying to see where they can get by. Nico Lawrence outbreaks himself into turn 2. Cedric says thank you very much on that one as they continue the charge. Herman Whitner will be keeping a very close eye on this battle as Tim, the cameraman, a little bit lost catching up to the field. Herman currently third in class, trying to close up to Dave Broschke and Henry Platt, who are 7 seconds up the road. Platt leads out his class, and they've managed to close up the distance to the leader of the golds. Diego Matos holds on to the top of the pack and is more than happy. Finley Gamble and Christian Fengler hold on second and third in the gold division. Platt, Broschke and Wepner hold on to the top 3 for our platinum, and for our diamond it's Peterson, Souza and Stone that hold on to that pack. With the front opening up, we do have those battles right the way down through the order. Benjamin Till dealing with Ruben Heineke at this stage of the game. These two have crossed swords, and we've just got word that our leader is on the final lap and will be making their way through. So for Heineke and Benjamin Till, they best get this all done and dusted. The last thing they want is Peterson to get round them and go and cost them an extra lap. That would be helpful to battle it out that little bit more at this stage of the game. And for Heineke, it is a monster push for the lead of our platinum division and a battle for the top 5. Henry Platt over Diego Matos, with Dave Broschke trying to close up the distance. All pushing a little bit harder at this stage of the game. No, they've got one more lap to make it or break it at this stage. They need to get that final push. David Roth trying to see if he can get past Rick Thomas at the moment, and Rick is not making it easy. He is going to try everything he can and Rick roll his way to clear David Roth, who's going to look around the outside. Roth hopes to go for the undercut, swings the car in, couldn't quite get the apex as Rick Thomas held it together. Lewis Knight gets the jump on El Perry. Andre Sorodio a bit further down, and Sean Skitter joins in for the fray as they come barreling their way around the circuit, going and giving it everything they got. But all eyes go towards the front as Christoph Peterson leads out the field and will be smiling ear to ear on this one. Had to fight it out. Does see Rafa into the dirt behind him. But coming across the line here in South Africa, it's Christoph Peterson who walks away with full points fastest lap and first in class. Rafa Sosa will take second place overall, second in the diamond class, with Miles Stone, a horrible Indianapolis, put behind him, takes third on his debut back to ERA. Myers Musa will finish up in fourth place, and a big impact for Hanso Foss as he is not happy with how his race turned out. Diego Matos will take the win in the gold division. Henry Platt beats out Borski, taking the win in the platinum division. And what a drive it was. David Borski, stellar one, with David Young finishing behind him in third. Herman Whitner going and keeping a close eye on the battle. What a drive all the way through. It's going to be Finley Gamble who will take second in the gold class, with Christian Fingler having a stellar run after a great charge, and a number of cars now getting themselves into pit lane as many of the drivers still coming across the line. Patrick Bowles will finish up ahead of David Roth, Rick Thomas, Chris Biermeister. Lewis Knight comes across as he holds Sean Skitter back down towards Ingwe, and it's going to be Sean Skitter down the inside, the two of them door to door, and it's going to be Lewis Knight just to pip him on the way through. Skitter will take 20th. Al Perry, David Christie, Benjamin Till, Ruin Heineke, and Sorodio round out the pack, as it does look like Heineke lands up into the dirt. He loses out to Sorodio, and not ideal situation there. I don't think he realized, hold on, I got a problem. He left it open for the leaders to come through, the Fear the Bones to run in sequence, and that has just absolutely killed the drive for Sorodio, who this stage of the game I think is getting pushed across the line. Yeah, it is. Sorodio getting a little bit of a help across the line because he ran out of fuel. What a drive. What a drive. What a moment. And Sorodio going and finishing ahead of Heineke, who looked like he was trying to help him out with a bit of fuel there. Well done, drivers. Well done. And gotta say, what a epic race. I mean, this is just an incredible race. And what a race it was, folks. Here at Kyalami for round 2 of the ERA Sunday Championship. And what a fight it was right until the line. Everyone giving it that extra bit of push down to the wire. Literally getting a push down to the wire. And what a race it was for round 2 of the championship. And there's a number of drivers that can be so happy on their performance. However, there is going to be a few drivers that are going to be casting their eyes back and saying, right, this is a race to forget. Now, what do I need to do for the rest of the championship? What do I need to do to stay at the top? One of them being Hanso Foss, who had a nightmare of a run out there, and will be hoping to have a far better option come next race. Now, that being said, let's take a look at some of the highlights here from the race, and also have a chat to a couple of our drivers as well. Starting off with our first place in the Platinum class. Let's see if we can grab Henry Platt for a bit of a chat after his race. Henry, welcome to the commentary box. What a race out there, and right down to the wire between yourself and David Broschke. It was anyone's game.
Yeah, yes, that was actually quite a nice race. I thought like I'll just sit behind him for a few laps because I didn't know what tires he was on. But yes, he kept it he kept it straight and narrow, and I couldn't get past. He only made a mistake at the end there. So yeah, what a race.
Now, we do see currently on screen a bit of the Constantina that happened in through Sunset, seeing cars all over the show. How was it from your side? Because it was very close to getting clipped, but you also had all the pressure around you with cold tires, cold brakes, just everything going on.
Yeah, that was hectic. I think there was some issues in turn 2 already. I got passed by the skin of my teeth. And then in Sunset also, I literally just put some brakes and I hope I didn't fucking hit anyone. It was quite tough.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
To be fair, I had no input there. I was just lucky.
Take a deep breath and see what happens. Now, this is a home track for you. How are you feeling managing to get the victory here at Kyalami and also now taking the momentum in through the championship as well to try and see if you can challenge the rest of the drivers? You missed out on our first round, but as a comeback to win the South African side, how's it for you and what's your game plan for the rest of the championship?
Yeah, so I wanna win plat. I'll obviously now already dropping around again, but such is life. Some of us need to work. But yeah, tonight I didn't even feel like I had a chance. Only like after all the chaos, I was like, okay, now I'm up a bit in the field. I'm closer to the guys that I need to chase. And yeah, I don't know. We had to win it. We had to get someone from South Africa to win it. So I'm happy it happened.
Yeah, the pressure all through. But what a stellar drive. Before I let you go to enjoy the celebration and to go and have a Boerewors roll, I saw it out at the Yixke sweep. There's a couple of Boerewors rolls and also at barbecue. Anything you want to say to the incredible drivers out on the circuit here tonight that were going and fighting out, to the teams cheering on, to our partner Overtake.gg here at ERA, and most importantly, to our absolute petrol heads out in the virtual grandstands this evening?
No, just thanks for everyone for pitching. Thanks for the guys for organizing. Thank you for streaming again. And then, yeah, thanks for the guys for some clean racing. There was some paint scrubbing here and there, but I think it was mostly clean. You can feel how you can be confident when someone is behind you, and that's awesome. And that also comes down to the organization. So, yeah, thank you, everyone. Nice race.
Absolutely well done. The Moscow Motorsports Henry Platt taking the victory in the Platinum Division. And it looks like we're missing a couple of our Platinum Division drivers, so we'll just bring up the names. David Roschke and David Young rounding out second and third of our Platinum. Diego Matos will take first in the gold and finish down in the top 5 for our gold division. And, overall top 5 and first in his class, followed by Finley Gamble and Christian Fengler holding on to third place in the gold division. Now, let's talk to our drivers in the diamond, our fastest in the world drivers, and let's kick it off with third place, Miles Stone. And I'm sure he's got a big smile on his face. Miles, welcome to the commentary box, and a far better race than what you had at Indianapolis.
Oh man, it feels amazing. Like, finally got to get here, with the diamond badge and a podium overall. And of course, as you said, like after Indy, the bad luck turned around for me, and I got really lucky with the race. And it was just managing it after. It was really a nice feeling. Finally, get back on the podium.
Now, we've got to ask, because it looked like a bit of fun out there for you. You were wheel to wheel more than once. You were caught in some big packs. How was the race out for you on a blistering hot circuit?
Managing the tires was like, I was trying to really manage the tires because I noticed in practice when I was like pushing, the Honda was kind of wearing out the rears too much. And honestly, for me, the race ended after lap 1. Lap 1, I had some wheel to wheel with Skitty, and then there was an incident behind me with Skitty, and then I had a big gap. And from that moment on, I was mostly just managing my tires because I had a good gap with Musa behind me. And shout out to Matos for defending like a lion, because I noticed that after like lap 1, he was ahead of Musa and Heineke, and he was high-key doing a really good job defending them. And the gap kept increasing so much that I could manage my tires manage the pace so that I can get a good stint in for the last stint.
Well, it was an incredible race. What's your game plan now for the rest of the championship? Taking some momentum here at Kyalami, looking at the rest of the championship, and possibly looking at standing on the podium come the end of season 18.
Honestly, I'm gonna just do what I did even last season when I was in a championship fight, out of the championship fight, and then I got magically in again. And then I'm just gonna take each race and try to maximize each race by itself, and just not think about the next race or the last race, and just put the time in like all the time.
Absolutely well said. And before I let you go to enjoy the celebration here at Kyalami and embrace the South African spirit, anything you'd like to say to the drivers, to the teams out there, to our partner overtake.gg, and to all the amazing petrol heads that came out to Kyalami, lining the grandstands and cheering you all on?
As always, I want to thank, the whole organization, the stewards, the coaches, the admins, everyone in the staff. But as always, it all comes down to the community itself, the drivers. Everyone is contributing to this league just by showing up. And I was really glad that to see this still enthusiasm and this passion. Other people being passionate and enthusiastic about your hobby makes you also passionate and enthusiastic as well. And it was really nice seeing everyone show up, in the practice sessions popping off, the VC being populated, and of course the race having so many people in. Honestly, like such a great sight to see, and I'm just grateful that we have such a nice community here and group of people.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. Well, Miles, congratulations on the third place, and we look forward to having a chat to you heading into round 3 at Valencia. Well done.
Cheers.
Milestone having a great one. Now, we've got 2 more drivers to have a chat to. We're going to bring in first of our diamond, then we'll move on to first of our gold, because I really do want to have a chat to Diego on a stellar race. But let's have a chat to our winner of tonight's race, and this is Christoph Peterson. Chris, welcome to the commentary box, and let's talk about the race. From having a 10-second gap at the start, knowing you've got a success penalty to try and get rid of, and your former rival, Rafa Sosa, going and chasing you down for that top spot. What was the game plan coming into the race here, round 2 at Kyalami?
I mean, the game plan was to somehow outdrive these 15 seconds. I really did my best. I went on the fresh tires for the first stint and went a little bit longer, so I had a long time because I knew, like, if I make it through sector 1 in P1, I have the pace advantage over everyone to at least do something, And I don't know if there were any like bigger crashes or something, but some incidents I think helped out that there was only Rafa in the window. I even briefly thought about not taking tires to be ahead of him, like without needing to overtake him, but then I thought he's just way too fast to make that work. He would just re-overtake me. And it was mental to get it done in the second stint by a proper overtake. Like I really enjoyed that.
Well, let's talk about that second stint, because it wasn't the easiest for you out there trying to get past some of the competitors that are brawling with one another, and you having to try and somehow put your car down the inside and really try and shove your way past. And especially knowing that Rafa got the jump on you, was leading out, and you two were nose to tail for a good portion of that last stint, right down to the dying minutes of the race.
Yeah, like I noticed that it's kind of likely that he was on warm tires too in the second stint, and he seemed to struggle a little bit more with them than me. Maybe he did more laps in quali or something, or the McLaren was maybe not that good to them, because I did the fastest lap on the warm tires immediately pretty much, and they felt really, really good. So I knew, okay, there's a chance here if I can hang on. But like you could see probably also from the stream, from the way I drove, you could really see the conditions today, because 33 degrees, that's the hottest we've had the track, like any track in ERA since I joined or something. Like I think the hottest we ever had was like 32 maybe. Like it was really, really, really warm. You lose quite a lot of downforce in these temperatures. And also at Kyalami, and in the Honda especially, dirty air is really compromising you. It's very difficult to keep the balance through the corners. So sometimes I needed to, like one time I even needed to go off track, like I think like 10 minutes before the end, just to avoid hitting him because my car just didn't have the right balance anymore. But I knew the only thing I have to do to overtake him is to get to 0.2, 0.1 seconds out of the last corner, because from previous experience on this track, I knew McLaren's, like I can overtake McLaren's. I have overtaken McLaren's on this track. They don't have the best drive out of the last corner. So if you can hang on and if you're in the slipstream, then you can dive into T1, and that's exactly what happened. Like when it happened 4 minutes before the end, I knew this is like my last chance to do it, and I was really glad it worked.
Well, it was an absolute stellar race, and wonderful to see you two brawling at it. But that being said, you take the momentum into round 3. You extended the gap in the championship over Sean Skitter, Limburg's Mahath Musa, Stephen Milner, James, who unfortunately retired on early in this race. But with that being said, is there anything you want to say to all the incredible teams behind the scene here in ERA, to our partner Overtake.gg, to all the drivers and teams that joined you out on the circuit that you had a brilliant brawl out with? The racing was incredible out there, but also to the petrol heads out in the virtual grandstand that come cheering night after night, day after day, flying around the world with us as we complete and head into round 3 of our season 18 here at ERA.
Yeah, first of all, shout out to Rafa, nice battle, lots of respect on track. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. Great to have you here. And Limburg's, heads up, you get there again. I don't know what happened today that he was so off pace, but I'm sure he'll be back at the top in the next race. And the third shout out goes to like my new team. Like of course haven't left Fear the Bones. We have like a kind of a partnership, like an official partnership now with Project Vapor, and I was with them this race, and unfortunately apart from Muaf, they all had kind of unlucky races, but we had a lot of fun, I think, and shout out to those guys. And yeah, I'm also really glad that we had such a good attendance this race, because Indy looked kind of like it's going down a little, but then we had 35 people today. That's really great. Thanks to everyone who was attending. I hope everyone had a great race, great experience, and I hope also all the viewers had a nice experience watching us fight.
It was
So, thanks everyone.
absolutely wonderful, and groundbreaking news to hear Fear the Bones and Project Vapor working together. That is a great thing. We look forward to seeing what comes from that. But Chris, well done on extending your lead in the championship, and well done on an incredible race. Look forward to seeing what can happen round 3 at Valencia.
Thank you.
Christoph Peterson going and having a stellar run there, and a bit of breaking news as well. But let's bring in a driver that got into the top 5, a gold driver that walked away with the lead, Diego. I mean, let's talk about the pace this evening. You switched out from the Mustang to a completely different shape and form. You gone to a mid-engine. You took the fight to the front. The McLaren taking not only the win in the gold division, but going and fighting against the pros in the diamond and platinum. How are you feeling after that one?
I feel great. Honestly, last season it had me down a little bit because I was driving the Audi, and the car was so difficult to drive. I had such terrible pace almost every race, and it kind of made me want to quit, even ACC or so. But yeah, I decided to try one more time this time with the McLaren. So back to with the times when I was silver. I drove first time silver with the McLaren, and I decided to give it another chance, and it's working super fine. So I'm really glad it went well. Honestly, I was kind of worried about my teammate Bram, and also Fangler. They were not close like at lap 1. I just got a little bit lucky with the chaos, and then it was just hold the pace a little bit.
Well, that being said, I don't think it's just only luck because there was pure skill in that one. How are you feeling after qualifying? Because that was some serious pace that you put down, and it continued to build on that. After seeing that you're at the top of the pile for the gold class, but then suddenly to see that you are right at the front heading into the race, even with the diamonds, what was going through your head?
Yeah, I mean, during the practice week, I had the pace. Also, Kyalami is such a good track, and I know it for a long time. And during the week, I was like, yeah, maybe I can have a chance. So, if the qualifying confirmed it, and I was pretty much happy. But I also was worried because Bram was really on my toes. And yeah, after lap 1, I just could, I don't know what happened, but I don't know. It was such a good drive.
Well, back to winning ways that we saw you in the Mustang. You were having great runs. The Audi is, I think, a season to forget, but the McLaren working out for you. What's your game plan now that you've taken your win here at Kyalami? Valencia's the next circuit. What's the game plan?
The game plan is also the same. So let's try to have such a good pace to win again. But of course, next race will be harsh. We will have I think it's a 15 seconds time penalty for the next race. But also it's wet, so maybe things can change and win again.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing what you can do. Before I let you go to enjoy the celebrations after such an incredible race, anything you'd like to say to all the admin, to everyone behind the scenes here at ERA, to our partner Overtake.gg, along with all the drivers and teams joining out on the circuit, and most importantly, the petrol heads that line the grandstands, line the hills here at Midrand Kyalami to go and cheer you on. And you've left the jaws flat on the ground after a stellar performance today, scoring a top 5 overall.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone involved in this project. This is such an amazing staff and team that we have here. It's just a big family, and everyone is so respectful in on track and off the track. So just thanks everyone.
Absolutely well done, Diego Matos. Welcome back to winning ways, and I've got to now pick my jaw off the ground after that one. What a stellar drive, and I look forward to chatting to you out at Valencia. Go and enjoy the celebrations. You earned it.
Thank you.
Wow, oh wow. Talk about a championship that's heating up, folks. Here at ERA, Sunday Championship, Season 18. It has been absolutely mental thus far. We're only 2 rounds in with plenty of racing to come. Now, with that being said, next weekend we are not back for our ERA Sunday Championship, but we are back for the ERA Masters League 2026. The first season of the ERA Masters League will be starting out 8 o'clock South African time on April 26th. We do have a Thursday night sprint race on April 23rd at 8:15 South African time. For those in the UK, you are going to be sitting an hour earlier, so 7:15 on your side. But also, folks, head over to SimGrid as our Drive for Dean happens on May 2nd as we battle out in a charity race that made history last time out, and now we look to do it again another year for our Drive for Dean race. And you want to catch that on May 2nd. Get your team together, get yourselves ready, and get racing as we battle out. But next time out here in the Sunday Championship, we head over to Valencia for round 3. It is going to be wet. It is going to be chaos. It's going to be fun. And our drivers will have to push it to the absolute limit as they will be looking to score maximum points in the championship. Well, folks, it's been an incredible time. I'd like to say thank you very much to all behind the scenes, keeping ERA going, to our amazing competitors, drivers, and teams that have been keeping us going, to you, the incredible fans that have been cheering us on, to Jim and Tim helping out on the cameras and with the flags. Wonderful to have them around. And folks, it's been a great one. From myself, Stephen Kernick, we look forward to seeing you next time right here at ERA. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon, and most importantly, we look forward to seeing you next time out, next Sunday, right here on ERA. And folks, like always, a good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Good night, everyone.